Welcome back to Fusion Friday for Woodworkers. This is a series that we take Fusion 360 and break it down one activity at a time, and we do that through the eyes of a woodworker. So if you're a woodworker, you're looking to use Fusion, this is the series for you. Today we're going to look at the Extrude Command. Let's get straight into it. You're going to find the Extrude Command at the top here of your Fusion screen. Extrude adds depth to a closed sketch, profile or planar face. Select the profile or planar face, then specify the distance to extrude. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. In English, what the Extrude Command does is it makes things thicker, or we can cut things out with it. We're going to show an example, and we'll make a piece of stock and we'll put a tenon on the end, make another piece of stock and put a mortise in it. That will show you the use of the Extrude Command. We're going to start off by sketching our piece of stock. Now, if you don't know how to do sketch, go back to episode 1, I think it was, in this series, and that will show you how to use the sketch command. So we're going to create a sketch. Come up to the top left hand corner, create a sketch, and we're going to click on this bottom plane here, and that's now taken us into the sketch tool. I'm going to use a 2-point rectangle, and I'm going to come to my origin point, and I'm just going to sketch something out that's 60 millimeters wide and 1000 millimeters long. And there you go, I've now got a flat piece of wood or a sketch. I'm going to finish the sketch and come back into my design page. And there you go, you can see that sketch that we just made. Now obviously that's flat, it's got no dimensions. If that was going to be a leg for something, pretty pointless really, I think. So that's where the extrude comes in. We're now going to give this a little bit of depth. So come to the top left hand corner, click on extrude. Now this is your extrude menu, and the first thing it says, well, what do you want to extrude? Well, I want to extrude that diagram. So I click on the select button, come down to my diagram till it goes blue, and select it. And you can see that now says 1 selected. It says, what direction do you want to extrude in? And I've got a choice. I can do one side, I can do 2 sides, or I can do symmetric. So if I do one side, it's just going to raise up, just grab that arrow there, it's just going to raise and make thicker one side of our drawing. Cool. If I come back and say 2 sides, it's going to allow me to first of all put one side and then pull down the other side. And I can do that independently of the 2 sides. Put us back to 0 again. And if I come back into symmetric, putting one arrow will affect both sides at the same time, so that will always mirror around that diagram that we did. So you've got 3 choices of the direction you want to pull it in. For this, we're just going to use one-sided. Now, extent, to what extent do you want to extrude? And you can do that to a set distance, you can do that to an object, or you can do it through the object that you're currently selected. And we'll come back to all in a second. The taper angle, if you wanted to, we can extrude this at an angle, so we can come in and say, well, let's extrude 45 degrees. And now when I pull my line, you can see it's coming down or up to give me a 45-degree slope from that shape. Now, I don't want to do that. I want to come in 0 degrees because I want this just to be a square piece of timber. And then what operation do I want to perform with my extrude tool? Do I want to create a new body? Do I want to join it to something that's existing? Do I want to cut something that's existing? Do I want to intersect something that's existing, create a new body, or create a new component? Now for this one, I want to create a component, and we'll look at the difference between bodies and components in a future episode. But for now, let's just create a component. So I know I've got my diagram selected, I know I'm going to do one side, so I can just drag the arrow up, and you can see this distance here changing as I drag that up and down. So let's make this 100 millimeters. There you go. So now you can see I've created a piece of stock using the extrude command that was taken from our sketch. Happy days. Now over here, if you look at the tree sort of builds up the bits and bobs that we're making. So this is a component. So let's just change this and say, actually, you're going to be a table leg. So we've now called this table leg. Now the next thing I want to do is to put a tenon on the end of this. So we'll come into the end and we'll sketch on it again. So we'll select the sketch tool, and I now want to sketch on the end. I'm coming back to my rectangle tool, sketch a rectangle anywhere on the end of that leg. Now remember when we did sketches, this is blue, so this isn't constrained. I'm pressing escape to come out of my sketch tool, and I want to give this some dimensions. So we'll put in from that side of the tenon to the edge of my leg, let's make that 15 millimeters. That's reasonable. From this side to this side, let's make that 15 millimeters. From this side to this side, let's make that 15 millimeters. And from this side to this side, let's make that 15 millimeters. So I've now created a tenon with a pretty good shoulder line, but once again, that is just a sketch. So finish the sketch. Now I'm going to come back into the extrude tool, select that sketch, and now I can grab the arrow at the end. Now I can grab the arrow at the end there, and I can raise that, and it creates that sketch for me. So let's go back through our menu again. What do I want to extrude? Well, it's that diagram there. We've already got it selected. The direction, well, I just want to go in one direction. I want to come up. It's going to be a distance, and I want that distance to be 30 millimeters. You can see that's now given me a 30 millimeter tenon on the end of our leg. Taper angle is 0. I don't want any fancy slopes in this one. Now look at this. My operation has auto defaulted to join. Now when it's joined, it will add this tenon to this piece of wood, i.e. it will add the tenon to the stock. That's perfect. That's what we want. So click OK, and I now have a 30 millimeter tenon on my stock. So if I now wanted to put a mortise on the side of this, I can do that as well using the extrude tool, because I can extrude negatively and cut just as easily as I can extrude positively and join. Let's create another sketch. Back to our sketch tool, back to this side face, and now I can sketch on this side. And I'm just going to rough in a tenon anywhere, don't care where it is. So I rough a rectangle, press the left mouse button, and that gives me that blue unconstrained thing again. Now let's assume that we're going to put an apron on the front here. So let's come in with our sketch dimension tool, and from that line to the front, let's make that, I don't know, should we make that 10 millimeters? Looks good to me. From the top, we'll have that coming down by probably 20 millimeters. The overall length of my tenon, so from this side to this side, let's make that 40 millimeters. And the width of the tenon, let's make that somewhere around about 50 millimeters. And as you can see, I've now got a tenon on my leg that will take the apron of our tabletop as an example. But once again, that's just a sketch. So let's finish that sketch off. I can now come back to the extrude tool. What do I want to extrude? Well, it's this mortise we've just made. Just hovering the mouse over things, it selects them. So come to the mortise, turn that blue, select it. And now it's saying again, what do I want to do? Well, I want to go in one direction, I want to go down. It's going to be a distance. That distance is going to be negative, because I'm going to come into the wood. See how that's gone negative? Negative, probably, what would we go for this tenon? Minus 30. Again, I want it straight, but look at the operation. The operation has now said, well, I'm assuming you want to cut. And look at that. It does. It wants to cut that there quite happily. It's cutting into that. It's cutting out the mortise for us. Fantastic. So, okay. And now I've used the extrude tool to make that mortise there in that space. Now while we've got the mortise, it's a shame not to use it, so let's create the skirt. Let's come back in, sketch on this face again, and let's create a square. 35 millimeters wide, and I'm going to call it 80 millimeters long. Now I also want to actually create something on that square as well, so I'm coming with a second rectangle. I'm just going to constrain it by drawing onto that rectangle there. So now I've got two rectangles. Happy days. So what I now want to be able to do is to extrude this. Well, let's come out of the drawing, finish the sketch. Let's go into extrude. I want to extrude that one, but I also want to extrude this one. And let's pull it up. Now by default, you can see that that wants to join it together. And if you look at our extrude command, it said, yep, I guess you want to join that together. Now Fusion doesn't really care about woodwork or whether you're doing 3D printing or whether you're doing some engineering drawing. So it just makes some choices that are right for the majority, not necessarily right for you. It'd be great if you could put a profile in this that says, hey, I'm a woodworker, but you can't. So let's make sure we select the right operation. I want to create a new component out of this. And you can see now it's created a new component. And let's just give this a length. Let's make this, what's a good idea? 1,500, 1.5 meters long would do. And you can see we're now getting the basics of the table. Let's just give this a name, come to components, and it's called U skirt. Now remember, we've not yet put the tenon on this, so I'm going to hide this leg. Goodbye leg. And I want to look at the end of this tenon. Now if we come into our sketches and we turn the sketch back on that we just made, there you go, there's that thing that we made. So let's extrude that out now. So let's come into here, select that middle piece, and let's start to drag it forward. And straight away it's saying, yep, you want to extrude this, you want to join it to this piece, which is correct. Now where do I want to join it to? I want to join it to an object. And if I just turn back on my table leg and just turn off my skirt, so the object I actually want to join to is this bottom face inside here. So I'm just going to hover that over that space there. You see that just going blue, and select it, and that's already said. So you want to extend this 30 millimeters because you want to extend it to the bottom face of that leg, into that mortise, and the answer is yes, I do. So I can now turn off the table leg, come back into the skirt, and you can see it's given me a 30 millimeter deep tenon because I selected to the object the bottom of the mortise. Done. Now I can bring back in my table leg, I can turn off the sketch, and just by using a simple sketch tool and extrude, I've made two pieces of timber of different widths, different lengths. I've created a tenon, I've created a mortise, and used that mortise to create a second tenon. And that's the power of the extrude tool. Really simple to use. Just remember those key things. Work out whether you're cutting, joining, or making a component out of your material. If it's a new piece of stock you're working on, you want to use the new component command inside extrude. If you're making a mortise, use the cut command. If you're making a tenon, use the join command. That's a very, very simple walkthrough of the extrude tool. I think on the next episode we'll have a look at the fillet tool and how we can use that to break the arris on our piece of stock. See you then.